Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and patch 10.2 is finally upon us. A pretty massive seasonal update that brings with it a ton of different class changes. Not only are we getting access to a brand new set of trinkets, weapons, and full new tier sets, but also we're seeing some fundamentally massive changes within certain playstyles. Either class changes, talent changes, or entire revamps as of this newest update. And we've been able to test majority of these changes during our time spent over on the PTR. If you're someone who's just jumping back into Dragonflight for the patch 10.2 to experience Season 3, then this video is going to highlight all of the most important class changes that every single playstyle is receiving with this newest seasonal update. But right before that, most of you guys watching these update videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight 10.2 or any of the future updates going forward. Before we dive into any of the specific class changes, we do have a new global adjustment that's going to affect every single healer for the patch 10.2. The purpose of this set of changes is to reduce overhealing, but also to make mana management a lot more important as part of your gameplay. But also the focus is to make healing a lot more enjoyable, by buffing single target healing spells to make dungeon healing a little bit less stressful, but also reducing some of the group AoE healing that comes from raid content. Now let's get to the class changes, starting with Death Knights. When it comes to Death Knights, the spec of Unholy is seeing some of the biggest set of changes come to patch 10.2. The primary goal here is to adjust their damage profile, because currently the spec is way too bursty and over-reliant on some of the major cooldowns to be effective, which can hurt them in smaller group content like dungeons or PvP. The objective is to make them feel more impactful every 45 seconds rather than once every 3 minutes. To do this, the major cooldowns such as Army of the Dead and Summon Gargoyle are seeing damage reductions. Talents such as Unholy Assault become flat damage buff instead of a haze buff to give them a more consistent rotational experience, and the base damage of all of their abilities such as Scourge Strike, Festering Strike, Death Coil, Soul Reaper, Fester Wound, your main ghoul as well as ghouls summoned through Apocalypse will be seeing a damage increase to help compensate. Next, we have the class of Demon Hunter, which are seeing a substantial revamp as of the patch 10.2. First of all, you'll notice that their class talent tree has been adjusted a little, which now provides you with some of the easier pickups for additional utility, helps reduce Metamorphosis cooldown down to 2 minutes if talented, and adds even more defensive value towards the tank and spec of Vengeance. Having Demon Hunter saw one of the biggest revamps with this newest update, which offers additional capstone talents as well as some big changes for some of the existing ones. You also get a ton more mobility options to better support a momentum-focused playstyle, as well as new survivability choices to make sure that you maintain durability. The take and spec of Vengeance, however, hasn't seen nearly as big of a revamp, more of a refresher within its talent tree, which allows them to focus better on sigil gameplay, providing a much easier pathing to pick up additional utility tools and granting him a new capstone in order to help complement all of the other talented choices. Next, we have the class of Druid. First of all, we see class talents such as Innovate lose 2 seconds of uptime as part of this healer mana adjustment. Then Heart of the Wild sees a nice little upgrade which empowers the hybrid potential of the Balance and Feral Druid abilities. Balance abilities will deal slightly less damage but will gain a much faster cast time for combat, while Feral abilities will lose some of their damage but gain a passive command point generation while inside of cat form. Balance Druids aren't seeing too many changes as of this build, but the update does attempt to provide them with better talent build variety. Part of this update increases the base power of the Balance Druids, handful of reductions to some of the more popular talents such as Nature's Grace, and value increases to some of the underused talents such as Wild Mushrooms. Also, your Mastery has been adjusted. Mastery now has a flat damage increase and a damage increase to targets affected by Sunfire or Moonfire. This allows you to retain majority of your upfront damage even when attacking targets not affected by either of your dot effects. Feral Druids gain a new talent of Saber Jaws, which drastically increases ferocious bite damage and is quite competitive talent among some of the other choices. Ashamane's Guidance will further empower Incarnation, causing your blades to increase the target's damage taken by up to 6%, with the effect lasting for 30 seconds after Incarnation has expired. Apex Predator's single target proc rate has been decreased, but it becomes a little bit more effective in AoE and cleave content. And Feral Druids can finally cast Innervate inside of cat form, which is a much needed quality of life improvement. Rested Druids will notice that more support has been given to the Tree of Life playstyle, especially when empowered by Cineris' Guidance talent. During Tree of Life, you will summon Grove Guardians every 10 seconds. Every time a Grove Guardian fades, the cooldown of Tree of Life is further reduced by 5 seconds, which can drastically help increase the cooldown's uptime. Tree of Life also causes you to cast Wrath instantly, making it deal 20% more damage during combat. And this playstyle will also very well synergize with some of the other talents such as Reforestation. Base healing of Restoration Druid has also been increased from spells such as Wild Growth, Rejuvenation, Regrowth, and many other passive talented options, but major cooldowns such as Flourish have been diminished in value, increasing the rate of healing over time effects by 25% down from 100%, which is a pretty massive reduction. The damage of all spells such as Wrath and Starfire has also been increased by 90% to help promote more hybrid gameplay. And Circle of Life and Death has been replaced with Liveliness, which greatly boosts your offensive power but not so much your healing potential, which should make it fairly competitive when slotted against Master Shapeshifter. Next, we have the Draconic edition of the Evoker, and ever since the newest spec of Augmentation has been introduced as of the patch 10.1.5, it has gained a ton of popularity, but just enough to overshadow every other DPS playstyle easily because of their unique group and party buff gameplay. Augmentation is being reined in a bit as of 10.2 to make them less of a must-have in all forms of endgame content, where we see the primary buff of Ebonite further reduced, with Ebonite also becoming harder to stack on multiple targets at once, with a soft limit of 2 unless no other targets aren't empowered. Ebonite will also avoid hitting healers, tanks, and other augmentation evokers unless no other target exists. The buff of Prescience will also function similarly as Ebonite, as does the Evoker's mastery buff of Shifting Sands, making it much harder to stack multiple of those buffs on a singular target. Prescience will have 2 charges though, which does allow them to better manage who they wish to buff before the start of an encounter. And party buffs such as Aspect's Favor health increase were further reduced, with Molten Blood absorb effect decreased by 50%. Devastation Evokers are seeing an overall damage increase, with additional buffs to their spellcasts and further increases to disintegrate single target damage output. However, their mastery value is being further reduced, but now has a new soft cap against lower health targets. The Giant Killer Mastery loses value against injured targets, but has an insanely good output against healthy foes. So this change allows their mastery to not fall off once their target reaches 30% health, which gives them that much needed overall consistency. Like every other healer, Preservation Evokers are also seeing single target healing increases to spells like Living Flame as well as Verdant Embrace. Resonating Sphere will however apply fewer echo buffs than previously, and their major cooldown of Rewind does see a slight reduction as of 10.2. Next, we have the class of Hunter, who are getting a new raid buff in the form of a Hunter's Mark. Enemies affected by Hunter's Mark will take 5% additional damage while they have more than 80% of their health, which roughly translates into about a 1% damage increase for your raid or party, which is just enough to warrant bringing a Hunter to every single boss fight. Hunter's Mark is also not designed as an ability that needs to be swapped around multiple targets, rather than something that you would place on a priority enemy before the start of an encounter, which makes it a little bit easier to use. Next, Beast Mastery has gained a few new talent options, which replace the bottom right portion of their spec talent tree, which saw very little play during the launch of Dragonflight. Now we have new choice talents such as Savagery, which buffs kill command and barb shot effectiveness, as well as Master Handler, which helps reduce the downtime of kill command, and an upgraded version of Call of the Wild, where summoning pets helps reduce the cooldown of barb shot and kill command simultaneously. Empowering Call with Wild Instincts causes your pets to deal more damage every time you kill command a target, while Bloody Frenzy causes all summoned pets to cleave and stomp with every new beast that is summoned. The spec of Marksmanship only sees a nerf to the Windrunner's Guidance talent, which no longer randomly procs a longer uptime of True Shot. Instead, firing wind arrows causes rapid fire to cool down slightly faster, Wind arrows will also increase the uptime of your next true shot by a maximum of 10 seconds. And Survival Hunter's Wildfire Bomb will now gain 40% additional damage against the primary target, which is a buff that's inspired by the most recent tier set bonus. When it comes to mages, we see no significant class or talent tree changes. We will mostly see bug fixes when it comes to Arcane Mage talent tree interactions, though nothing incredibly significant. Mages can still look forward to the newest tier set bonuses as of the patch 10.2, but right now there isn't really too much class changes to cover for this current update. Up next we have the class of Monks, starting with the class talent tree, where we see a small buff to Jade Statue, increasing its soothing mist healing by 40%, as well as an adjustment to the talent of Escape from Reality, which becomes a 1-rank talent node. Mistweaver healing has been further increased as of the 10.2, with buffs to spells such as Life Cocoon, Soothe Mist, Envelop Mist, Invigorating Mist, Vivify, and Burst of Life. Melee healing of Ancient Teachings has now a 40-yard range, which is great for any allies that are spread a little too far from the monk's location. Expel Harm base healing has also been greatly increased for Mistweavers, which goes on to benefit from all the other talents that buff Expel Harm's output. And to buff their survivability even further, Healing Elixirs is now a passive proc, which restores 20% of maximum health whenever you drop below 40% health. And then the talent of Bounce Back will provide you with an additional 40% damage reduction whenever you receive 12% of health worth of damage. Combat abilities such as Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, and Spinning Crane Kick have also been increased for Mistweaver monks, and Teachings of the Monastery buff may now stack up to 4 times, which improves the combat flow and the Blackout Kick burst capability. Besides Mistweavers, Windwalkers are also seeing a new set of buffs for the 10.2, with the base damage buffs for abilities such as Rising Sun Kick, Fists of Fury, and Whirling Dragon Punch. Up next we have the class of Paladins, where we see primarily a new set of changes for the healing spec of Holy. First of all base healing of Holy Paladins is seeing a slight reduction, but single target spells such as Holy Light, Flash of Light, Holy Prism, Word of Glory, and Glimmer of Light are all seeing healing increases. There are major cooldowns such as Barrier of Faith, Hand of Divinity, and even the healing of Merciful Auras within Aura Mastery all see a bit of a reduction, as does Daybreak when it comes to its mana restoration properties. Next, we see the defensive of Sanctified Blades become 40% less effective for Holy Paladins specifically, and on top of it, Blessing of Sacrifice will now split 20% of allied damage taken instead of its initial 30% value, which is another notable decrease. Up next we have the class of Priest. In 10.2, the group-wide value of Priest is being reined in a bit though, with a new set of party-wide reductions. Starting off with the base class challenge changes, we see a reduction to Power Infusion with a haste and uptime both decreased, as well as a new cooldown of 2 minutes placed on the ability of Mass Dispel. We see a new talent of Mental Agility, which reduces the mana cost of Purify, Purify Disease, and Mass Dispel by 50%, as well as Dispel Magic by 10%. With backlash damage of Shadow Word Death now dealing only 8% of Priest's maximum health and damage, no longer scaling with the initial ability damage. Then we have the talent of Power Word Life, which can now only be cast on targets if they are below the 35% threshold, and now has a 15-second cooldown, making it a bit more consistent and less risky to use. The spec of Discipline has also gone through quite a few changes in preparation for 10.2, with this update focusing on improving its rotational feel and reducing the amount of number stacking and buff stacking required to output competitive healing, with new talents such as Sanctuary Empowering Smite to reduce target damage during combat. Schism debuff now applies from using Mind Blast against your current target, and Shadow Covenant now procs whenever you summon your Mindbender or your Shadow Fiend. The Mindbender will offer a weaker version of Shadow Covenant but has overall better uptime, while the Shadow Fiend will offer a much stronger version of the Covenant to match its longer summon cooldown. Both pets will also gain cooldown reduction from the Void Summoner talent positional change. A new talent of Ultimate Penitence causes Disc Brace to rise into the air, firing penance bolts at enemies or allies depending on your target, while shielding the priest, making them immune to pushbacks and crowd controls for a short moment. Penitence can then be further upgraded with cooldown reduction elements and can even create an explosion of light to heal and apply atonements on nearby allies. Besides this, we also see a number of damage and healing increases, with Penance, Purge the Wicked, Mind Blast, and Inescapable Torment talents increased, which buffs Atonement healing, as well as buffs to healing abilities such as Penance healing, Flash heal, and Power Word Shield absorption. Sins of Many, however, does see a significant reduction, with its value reduced by half for 10.2. The Atonement healing is being increased by 50% when used outside of raids to compensate, reducing the DPS impact while maintaining the group's healing value. And finally, Power Word Barrier damage reduction does see a 5% nerf as of this newest update. Next, Holy Priest also see a number of healing changes, with single target spells such as Flash Heal and Holy Word Serenity further increased, but the raid healing and raid support value does see a hit for the 10.2, with spells such as Divine Star, Halo, Prayer of Mending, and Echo of Healing further decreased. Holy Word Salvation cooldown reduction also sees a notable decrease, and Symbols of Hope cooldown recovery has also been reduced by half of its original value. Shadow Priests are seeing a few notable changes, mostly when it comes to reducing the rotational bloat from procs and abilities, where damage over time spells such as Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Shadow Apparition procs see a sizable improvement. Mind Flay and Mind Flay Insanity damage has also been increased, as was the Mind Spike Insanity. But the talent of Surge of Insanity will now trigger from every 2 casts of Devouring Plague rather than being from every cast of DP. Rogue is another class that sees massive class revamps as of the patch 10.2, which drastically transforms their talent tree from the class talents as well as the spec-specific options. To cover all of the Rogue changes in great detail would be a video of its own, and I highly recommend for you to thoroughly read through all of the newest talent options when you get the chance to hop back on your Rogue. But here are some of the more notable highlights to mention. In the class tree, we will see big improvements for speed increases with talents like Featherfoot, better defense from Graceful Guile, and better control capabilities in dungeons thanks to the Airborne Irritant. The spec of Assassination sees a number of talent improvements, with a big focus on changing up their AoE gameplay, with talents such as Caustic Spatter providing additional funnel single-target cleave gameplay, while Crimson Tempest will scale with the number of targets, and Carnage will now cleave nearby enemies from your opener, making it far more consistent. Blindside will automatically swap out Mutilates for ambushes whenever you get a proc, which is a nice quality of life improvement. Talents such as Dragon Temper Blades can now be combined together with Kingsbane for much greater value. And Sudden Demise Execute talent joins as Assassination's new capstone choice. Outlaw rogues get a number of baseline abilities such as Grappling Hook, Blade Flurry, Roll the Bones, and Restless Blades. The spec also sees a number of talent changes which allow for better stat scaling possibilities, with options such as Ace Up Your Sleeve for crits and Swift Slasher for haste. Underhanded Upper Hand creates new rules that modify your combat rotation. Deft Maneuvers changes how you use certain abilities such as Blade Flurry in AoE encounters. Audacity automatically transforms Sinister Strikes into ambushes, which is another convenient feature. Crackshot Capstone allows you to not incur a cooldown when using Between the Eyes from stealth, resulting in fantastic burst-focused gameplay. And Killing Spree becomes a combat finisher, which also delays all damage taken when using the ability in combat. Then we have the spec of Subtlety, which gains Shadow Step and Black Powder as baseline abilities. But the biggest change comes to Subtlety's playstyle is its resource generation and cooldown uptime. This spec going to be a lot more cooldown focused, with a notable uptime and downtime during your gameplay. The talent of Shadow Blades has also grown more powerful, increasing all damage as 20% as shadow damage, while also causing combo point builders to generate maximum amount of combo points with every strike, which results in a fantastic burst-focused output windows. Shadow Techniques now stores combo points into a buff rather than generating them automatically. This allows you to bank up combo points during Shadow Blade's uptime and allows you to build combo points without wasting any additional procs from Shadow Techniques. Defensively, Subtlety gains talents like Ephemeral Bond, which increases healing taken, and Exhilarating Execution, which causes you to gain a shield from using your finishing moves. Subtlety also gains a new capstone of Gormo's Bite, which deals significant damage and reduces the energy cost of your next few finishers, and Shadowcraft, which further amplifies Shadow Techniques inside of Symbols of Death windows. Up next, we have the class of Shaman, where first of all we see reductions to Mana Spring talent for all of the 3 Shaman playstyles. For Elemental Shamans, we do see a buff to Splintered Elements, which allows you to gain more haste up front within single target encounters, and the talent of Further Beyond now has a cap on how long it can extend the uptime of Ascendance. Enhancement Shamans gain a new talent of Tempest Strike, which is an alternative playstyle to Elemental Blast, offering your Storm Strikes, Lava Lashes, and Ice Strikes a chance to deal additional damage during combat. Primordial Wave initial damage has also been increased by 500%, and the haze gained from Splintered Elements is similar to its effectiveness to the spec of Elemental. Lastly, Legacy of the Frost Witch also increases frost damage on top of increasing physical damage when consuming 10 Maelstrom stacks at a time. Restoration Shaman gains a number of healing buffs for the 10.2, from base healing increases to buffs to specific spells such as Healing Surge, Healing Stream, Chain Heal, Unleash Life, and Riptide. Though we do see reductions to group-wide healing from things like Cloudburst Totem, Primordial Wave Healing Cleave, and the Ascendance Healing Duplication effect. Mana Tide Totem and Resurgence now restore a little bit less mana, and the Ancestral Awakening talent healing has also been decreased by up to 10%. Next, we have the class of Warlock, and starting out with Affliction, we see only a handful of changes, like a baseline cooldown reduction for Summon Darkglare when using the talent of Grand Warlock's design, and Soul Eater's Gluttony now also gains baseline cooldown reduction. Destruction Warlock also sees a cap on the Summon Infernal cooldown reduction talent, but that infernal damage has also been increased by 50%. We see buffs to abilities such as Shadowburn, Rain of Fire, as well as Chaos Vault, as well as a new version of Chaos Bringer which offers additional ability damage increases. When it comes to Demonology Warlocks, we are seeing a similar set of changes as the Unholy Death Knight, which can all be boiled down to a decrease in some of the major cooldowns such as Nether Portal and the Tyrant, but an overall damage buff to all of the base combat abilities, where everything from Shadow Bolts, Demon Bolts, Wild Imps, Head of Gul'dan, Implosion, Dreadstalkers, Summon Vilefiend, and the Felguard will all deal additional damage. But we also see new talents such as Fel Invocation, which buffs the effectiveness of Vilefiend or Soul Strikes, and Shadow Invocation, which further improves Bile Scourge Bombers while giving the spells a chance to summon additional bombers. Finally, we have the class of Warrior, where we see a group utility of Rallying Cry slightly reduced for the patch 10.2. Arms Warriors do gain additional damage from base power increases as well as to specific abilities such as Slam, Mortal Strike, and Overpower. Skull Splitter has been adjusted to cause your bleeds to erupt quickly but not instantly, which should result in better rotational flow. And Ignore Pain no longer contributes to talents such as Anger Management, Tactician procs, or Test of Might. Fury Warriors do see a change to the Reckless Abandon talent, which will only empower one single Bloodthirst or a Raging Blow. But the damage bonus of either ability has since been doubled to maintain the same talent effectiveness. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.